Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to welcome you to this morning's session, The Future of Cotton, which will be presented by Kim Kitchings from Cotton Incorporated. But before we bring her on, I'd like to take a few minutes and talk to you about, update you on the initiative that started the last time that we were together in 2019 at the trade event in Liverpool, the Women in Cotton. So, hang on. So some of you might remember the panel of ladies that was addressing the group back then, and they were talking about the importance of diversity and the great benefits it can bring. But a lot's happened since 2019, and Women in Cotton is really, in the past 2 years, becoming one of the greatest initiatives that the ICA has seen. During the past 2 years, during this pandemic, Women in Cotton have taken to the virtual meetings via Zoom, and in order to reach the men and women of our industry. Since this year, we were able to come back to have some in-person meetings. The Women in Cotton aligned with some of the affiliated associations, and we couldn't be ever so grateful to the Texas Cotton Association, Brazil's National Cotton Exporters, Association of Cotton Exporters, ANEA, and the American Cotton Shippers, all for sharing their space and giving Women in Cotton a platform to reach and introduce this initiative to their membership. This year, you can see Women in Cotton. We were also had an opportunity to talk to some of the younger talent in our industry at the Complete Cotton class and through the ICA Aspire class. And it was really nice to hear firsthand from them their beliefs and their appreciation for gender diversity and what it means to them. So why is gender diversity important? And what is it? You know, it's not just about doing the right thing. And it's not just about ticking off boxes. Or it's not about giving unfair preferences to people. Because everyone wants to be recognized for their own achievements, for their contributions, and even for their potential. It's about leveling that playing field a little bit. And diversity is things about inclusion, productivity, profitability, and bringing and future-proofing, let's say, our industry. So it's Women in Cotton's mission is to increase the engagement and impact of women by giving them a stronger voice, by connecting them and sharing and learning from each other, and give them some opportunities for networking with other people in the cotton industry. To achieve this, Women in Cotton have created 3 different types of events. The first is Chats for Change, and this is more a personal and professional development session, which we've had many professional speakers come, and we've touched on such topics such as overcoming obstacles, what does a good leader look like, and even tips for better negotiations. Next, we have the Global Cafe, and this is where we bring more of an opportunity for networking together. It is a more relaxed place. We have topical conversations in small groups where people are able to meet other people in the industry and from different parts of the globe. Last, we have Women in Action, and this is where we like to spotlight the achievements and contributions of women that are in our industry, because inspiring women are role models to the other women and trying to advance their careers. It's really easier if they can see a successful woman in her careers and the contributions, it's easier to follow and know that they can do this too. So these initiatives were to create awareness and encourage advances of women in the cotton industry. But this could not really be done without the male leadership support in our group. And I'd really like to thank a lot of you who have already pledged that support to Women in Cotton, and even we do have a lot of men at our events virtually, and I'd like to thank you. And if you haven't been to one of our events, I would really encourage you to do so. It's important to begin to understand the differences between the genders and how they can complement each other in the workplace. Because we work differently, we think differently, and it's just for that reason, when we work together, things are better. Now, you can follow our events and their dates and what's going on with Women in Cotton via our LinkedIn groups, the Facebook group, YouTube, and on the ICA website. So without any further ado, I'm going to say I am honored to be here today to introduce one of the most well-informed individuals in consumer marketing, Kim Kitchings, and she is a shining role model for women in cotton. And we're also very fortunate that she chose cotton as her field of expertise. Kim is the Senior Vice President of Consumer Marketing at Cotton Incorporated. In this role, her primary goals are to motivate customers and of the trade to buy cotton and to affirm that cotton is a fiber of choice for sustainable and eco-friendly products. Kim joined Cotton Incorporated in 1996 as a manager of market research, and prior to that position, she was the Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Program Metrics. Over her 25-plus year career in cotton industry, Kim has been instrumental in the strategic assessments of the global consumer demand and market evaluations for cotton. Kim oversees a wide variety of tools such as digital marketing, social media, broadcast television, strategic partnerships, and media relations and presentations to communicate cotton's messages to the very constituents. Kim has highlighted the functional and fashionable benefits of cotton with an average year-over-year 1.5 billion impressions to audiences worldwide. She introduced thought leadership in cotton sustainability, circularity, and agricultural research directly to the consumer through strategic marketing that highlights the innovative developments and technology taking place in these areas. So I hope everyone will join me in welcoming Kim to the stage and give her a warm welcome.
Good morning. It's great to have the opportunity to be here, and I must say I have been in the industry a long time. I didn't know we were going to say the date out loud, but it's been 27 years and couldn't be happier to have been here and have the opportunities that we've had today, and to look today at the future of cotton. When Kim reached out to me and she told me about the conference and what you were doing and gave some direction on some things she would like to see, I had not seen the other panels, and unfortunately I wasn't here yesterday, but I thought it was really interesting that they were looking at the past, today, and then the future as well when they talk to you about what we can do for cotton. And that's what I want to do today, is I want to talk about cotton's resilience, how relevant it is today, and then how are we going to renew and how are we going to continue to be relevant in this ever-changing landscape that we're all working in. So let's begin by looking at resilience. I don't have to tell you about the economic headwinds. You've heard that and what's occurring in the marketplace today with inflation right on the edge of recessionary period and after a pandemic of 2.5 or 3 years. When we look at that, how has cotton performed and what has it meant during this period of time? But as you've heard, my focus at this time in the company is really on the consumer. So when I start to look at data, and I am a data person, we talked about earlier, data, I love it. But when we start to look at that, I want to know the sentiment. I want to know what's going on in the marketplace. So I went out and I reached out to Ipsos, and they had just completed a survey in September of this year in 28 countries. And it was about 20,000 interviews, and it asked consumers, what are you most worried about? And what you can see, this is global, and I do want to say it's exclusive of China in this, but looking at it, inflation, poverty and inequality, corruption, unemployment, and then crime and violence. And if you looked at it only for the US and we pulled that out, you would see inflation is number one, then you would see crime, and then you would see one that's not on this list, which was surprising to me, climate change. And we're going to talk more about that today and what we're doing around that area. But there's no talk that's really complete right now without looking at what happened during COVID. And when we look at this, we can see consumer sentiment, concern about COVID, really started to fall off at the beginning of this year. And with that, though, what took place was inflation. And with the inflation, we're seeing now double-digit inflation in things such as gasoline, up 65%, food, 20%, and utilities, 27%, double digits. The good news for us is that apparel is up single digits. You're talking 2 to 6%, depending on which numbers you're looking at. However, when you have the concerns of double-digit things like utility, energy, food, apparel becomes discretionary. 85% of the cotton fiber goes to apparel and home goods. So what does that mean for us is we go into the next phase and on the cusp of a recession. So this looks at cotton prices. I'm going to switch gears for a minute and look at volatility. Now, I'm pretty certain everyone in this room is aware of the volatility in the market. And what we can see when the onset of COVID occurred, that there was an everything rally. All prices went up, and it continued to do so even with the outbreak in Europe. And not until a commodity sell-off did we start to see a drop in prices. And then our usual suspects showed up, weather. We started to see the drought in Texas, the USDA had to lower their forecast, and then our friends in Pakistan had flooding, the opposite effects. Again, we start to see impacts potentially of climate change and what that means. But cotton is resilient, and we know it'll recover. And we know this because we've got a 50-year history. When you step back, and this is looking at recessions in the U.S. since 1971, the gray bar shows you those recessionary periods. Before a recession in the U.S., you generally see interest rates increase. Then you see a recession, and then for us in the industry, we see cotton prices start to decline. However, again, we always see that recovery. Cotton is resilient in these markets, and it's resilient for a variety of reasons that we'll go into. But when we're talking about prices, it's not just prices that matter for us, it's also the share, how much cotton is being utilized in the marketplace. And this chart should actually start in January of 2015, and then you can see it goes right up to the pandemic. And what happened, not surprisingly, we saw a significant decrease in cotton share because of PPE, personal protective equipment. All of that essentially was man-made, non-woven material that was needed in the marketplace. We saw a dive, but then we saw cotton return almost immediately. And if I do the same chart for you, but I take out the PPE, you'll see that not only did it increase, but we saw it up and down, a little bit of volatility, but it has maintained the share. Wonderful opportunity for us there, and the primary reason for that was due to consumers buying more goods and less services because they weren't available. So to some degree, sales of apparel at that time was artificially high, good in our favor. Now we're starting to see some declines, which would be expected. Again, we'll see that change and turn around due to cotton's resiliency. And the last chart I want to show you in this area looks at global cotton production. And what we can see is that this year we have production exceeding mill use. That's good in the environment we don't have to worry about issues of supply or demand. Retailers and brands that had to go through the high prices now are looking at this and saying, I can stay in cotton, I can afford it. We need them there. For us in the room, we like prices to be higher, to be more stable, but there is a take and give when we look in the marketplace. Also, this is important because if you look at data from Euromonitor International, they are projecting over the next 5 years global apparel expenditures to reach $1.8 billion. We want to continue to have a part of that market. 85% of the cotton fiber, again, goes into apparel and home goods. But it's not just apparel and home goods that helps us maintain our resiliency in economic issues. Cotton is one of the only commodities that has more than a single use. Every part of our plant is used. And to show you that, let me show you a video.
Ever wonder what ingredients go in salad dressing, makeup, pens, or the toothpaste you use every morning? These items and hundreds more are all byproducts of a specific crop, upland cotton. Usually, when a commodity crop is harvested, it only has one specific end use. For example, one variety of corn can produce human food, but it's a different variety that might be used to feed cattle, which is a different variety from the one used to make biofuel. Likewise, different varieties of hemp can be grown for cannabidiol oil, or for fiber, or for hemp oil. These are or crops. Upland cotton, however, is an and crop, meaning every harvest yields a multitude of usable ingredients, such as fiber for your favorite textiles like denim, jersey, corduroy, and velvet, and cottonseed used to feed dairy cattle and produce a range of dairy products, and cottonseed oil for commercial food preparation like chips, fries, frozen food, salad dressing, mayonnaise, shortening, beauty products, baking oils, and linters, which can be used in such wide-ranging products as ice cream, beer, tool handles, food casings, pens, pencils, mops, rugs, cotton swabs, photographs, paints, rubber, plastics, explosives, and the list goes on. Cotton is everywhere and has numerous benefits besides just being the fabric of our lives.
Did you know there were that many uses for cotton? There are without a doubt, and we like to promote those at any time we get the opportunity and look for continued diversification. But those uses also help us with relevancy and helps us remain and understand why cotton matters in the marketplace. So when we talk about cotton, I've already told you why we talk primarily about apparel and home textiles. So we start with the consumer there, and we ask them about their attitudes for shopping. Attitudes lead behavior. This is a global study that we conduct at Cotton Incorporated in conjunction with Cotton Council International in 13 different countries. We do include China in our study. And when we look at this, we ask consumers in general, and this is global again, what do you most like to shop for? Clothing is number one, groceries, electronics, and shoes. And then we see that 76% of consumers say, I like or love clothes shopping. And in many of these areas, it's not just the clothes shopping they like, it's a community event. And they go together to do this, and they're so happy to be back together. Now, that doesn't take away from the rise on online shopping, but it does add questions to the metaverse that you heard about earlier. And where do we play in a space like that? How is cotton the fabric of your life when you can't touch it or feel it? How do we evolve to look at that? Our teams at Cotton Incorporated are looking at that today to ensure we keep the presence we have. But not only do consumers tell us they enjoy shopping, they love to shop, when we ask them what they're looking for in apparel, they tell us cotton. Over 77% say I prefer cotton or cotton blends or denim. And by the way, not everyone knows that denim is cotton. That's a message we have to continue to remind consumers globally around the world that that is part of who we are. So when we look at the preference for cotton, you can see this chart that talks to you about cotton for all types of clothing. And when you go into this, you can see that cotton is preferred or a blend or a natural fiber in literally every case, the majority. And the opportunity here is to continue to grow that and let consumers know that it's available and they can find it quickly and easy when they're looking for it in the marketplace. It's not just in apparel, but it's also in home textiles. You can see more than 50% want cotton or a blend or other. When they say that, or they don't know. Now, one of the concerns we have in this area, though, when I talked to you earlier about rising costs, are the concerns about energy usage in Europe and other places. I was just there a month ago. So when you start to talk about cotton home textiles to consumers, maybe we have to change some of our story. Maybe it's not the heavy plush towels that we like that consume more cotton right now. Maybe it's a little lighter weight, 100% cotton that'll dry faster, so they're not having to use that energy, but we keep them in cotton. Those are ways we adapt and look at opportunities in the marketplace so they don't go to other fibers. So when we talk about this, though, we want to understand what are the true purchase drivers for consumers when buying apparel. They come in and they tell us globally that comfort, fit, and quality are the #1 level. And that's not really surprising when you think about it. You're not going to buy an item if you're not comfortable in it. I happen to be comfortable in this today. I enjoy wearing it. It is a cotton jacket, by the way, when you go through it. But you want it to fit. You want it to look good, good quality. Those first. Second, globally, they tell us durability, price, style, fiber, and then environmentally friendly. And then in the third area, and our earlier speaker talked about this, brand and origin. That's different. It's not as connected as it once was, but it is important to them. So when we go through, though, and we look at this in the U.S., price jumps up first, and environmentally friendly when shopping for apparel goes to the bottom, which is interesting because we have such a push in that area. So one of the things we'll talk about is how do we become relevant in that area with consumers. So why then is cotton the preferred fiber? How do we start to position this to understand how to better message consumers globally? Well, I've decided we'd talk about the 3 E's: economics, eco-friendly or eco-advantages, and then the emotional value or allure of cotton. You can't underestimate the power that we see. Let's start with the economics. These are some numbers I pulled, in fairness. World Cotton Day, hopefully many of you participated in it on October 7th, headed out by the ICA. We have these numbers on their website or these messages, and we talk about the advantages of cotton. Cotton being poverty alleviating crop, and what that means globally is almost 100 million family units are involved in the production of cotton. That is significant. And we know many of these are in emerging countries as well. We know that cotton biodegrades quickly. I'll prove that to you in a few minutes. That it can be grown literally anywhere. It's part of the and crop, and when I say grown anywhere in arid climates where other things can't be grown, cotton also represents 80% of all natural fiber produced. So when consumers say they want natural fibers, it's cotton that they're looking for. And then last but not least with economics, global production represents approximately $51 billion this year when you look at what cotton is able to produce globally. So it's a significant investment by our countries and other areas to stay in cotton and to keep that at the forefront of consumers' minds. But when you talk about consumers, it matters what's in their pocket. It matters where they want to go and how we can help them save money, but trends can impact that. This is a chart that shows the percentage of consumers willing to pay more for better quality. And you can see that in 2006, the numbers were lower, 67%. That was due to the advent of fast fashion. Think about what happened when it came into the marketplace, a push for styles, for changing, for disposable apparel. But as consumers began to better understand that, and retailers and brands in the supply chain, it didn't look so great when it went to the landfill. So we started to see that shift as sustainability has become more important. And today, globally, we're seeing almost a 15-year high of 76% of consumers saying they are willing to pay more for better quality. And what does better quality mean? Well, that means longer lasting. And this is an important statistic going into a recessionary period, because when it's discretionary, when consumers don't have to buy it, we want them to believe that cotton is the best quality they can buy. And I mentioned that when they talk about quality, many times they'll talk about durability. They'll talk about the weight of a garment, could be a weight of a towel as well. But looking at that, and they say that's what quality. But not only is it quality and durability, but it has to last longer. So globally, when we ask consumers in the 13 countries, what fiber do you think lasts the longest in your clothing? 57% said cotton. That's 2 times more than said polyester and 4 times more than said rayon. And the issues we hear when they talk about rayon, which is another cellulosic fiber, are things that we hear with cotton, such as pilling, fading, and shrinking. But it doesn't last as long, and they don't know how to take care of it. So there are opportunities there with lasting longer. And not only does it last longer, but when consumers are asked about safety, we see natural fibers come to the top. And there has been never a better time than today to talk about safety after a global pandemic. Consumers were asked, what fibers do you rate is safest for the environment? You'll see cotton and wool, the top 2, and more than double of consumers saying cotton and wool compared to rayon, polyester, and nylon. Now, when you're talking to consumers, though, words matter. So if we take recycled and we put that in front of polyester, that number goes from 34% to 52%, a significant difference. So we have to understand about marketing. When you hear terms like greenwashing and what's going on in the marketplace, these matter. So we want a new focus in that area and to make certain we're telling our story like we need to in the awareness phase. It may not be a purchase driver today, but it may be in the future. So when we look at this, and it's safety that consumers already perceive, that cotton has a high ground, that's good. But we also want to ensure that it stays that way. And to do that at Cotton Incorporated, we have a series of research studies that we're doing, one of which I thought I would share with you today, which is in microfibers. I'm sure many of you in the room have heard about microfibers, but in the research study we began in 2017, this is the second iteration I'm going to show you, we found that cotton breaks down faster than blends or polyester and all types of waterways. And not just that, but even if it has a textile finish on it, cotton still breaks down faster. Take a look.
There's all this talk about microfibers, or fiber fragments. But what really happens when clothing, towels, and bedding shed fibers in the wash and enter into our waterways? Depending on the fiber, textiles can accumulate in waterways and break down at different rates, or hardly at all. In wastewater, cotton microfibers will break down nearly 89%, and polyester fibers only 5%. In freshwater, like rivers and lakes, cotton microfibers will break down nearly 77%, and polyester fibers, 0. In saltwater, cotton microfibers breaking down nearly 49%, and polyester fibers, 4%. Our fabrics are often treated with color or finishes to help with everyday wear. Cotton grows from the earth, just like an oak. Let's look at how common dyes and performance finishes change how cotton, a natural fiber, breaks down in our waterways. Even with textile treatments, the cotton fibers broke down in water at a rate similar to an oak leaf. Do your part and know your clothes by checking the ingredients for natural fibers like cotton. To learn more about cotton and sustainability, visit Cotton Today.
Great, so you can see the opportunity, and I like to take this time too to share that any of the research you see coming out of Cotton Incorporated is third party. And looking at that, it's verified and it's approved. There are no marketing claims that we will ever make that doesn't have science behind it, and there's also claims that you are able to utilize in your areas and your countries. So I mentioned the 3 E's. We talked about economics, a couple of slides that should have been on environment at the corner. I think it still said economics. And then emotion. We can never underestimate emotion with consumers, and we're all consumers at the end of the day. We found, and this is in the US specifically, we did not ask this specific question globally, 9 out of 10 consumers say they like or love cotton. When my team showed me that stat, I said, well, I don't know who the other 10% are, but I don't want to talk to them. I said, let them go. And so, but when we talk to consumers and they tell us this, we find out there are various reasons: breathable, comfortable, affordable, looking at hypoallergenic, easy maintenance. It's the fiber they trust. Globally, when we ask consumers about their preference for cotton, again, comfort was number 1. It was authentic. Think about that, authentic. That's important today. It's not synthetic. It's not man-made. And then we can also see the third one on the list, which is the sustainable fiber. Here, when they tell us sustainability, it's not maybe what we're thinking in the supply chain. They're talking about durability and longevity. So looking at the opportunity with emotions and connectivity, we now move into the area of renewal. What are we going to do to ensure we stay at the forefront of messaging with trends, with competitiveness, with sustainability, and keep cotton as the preferred fiber among consumers? And not only do we have that challenge to do that, but we also have other issues in the marketplace. You heard about the metaverse. We have brands and retailers that are interested in taking clothing labels out of clothing. That will help save cost. But the question for us in the industry is how do we leverage an emotional connection, an economic connection that we have and we have built for more than 50 years, at least in the US for Cotton Incorporated, with the consumer, and understanding that cotton is that choice. How do we evolve to do that with labeling requirements as well? So what I want to move into now for you is I want to talk to you and give you some examples of things that we're doing to keep cotton at the forefront. But before I do that, we're going to talk about understanding the marketplace with renewing cotton and dirt to shirt, what that means. At Cotton Incorporated, I like to talk about all the scientists we have. We have a wall of PhDs literally in the agricultural area. We have them in product development and marketing, and even in my area in the Division of Consumer Scientists. And when we go there, we want to understand what are the opportunities for cotton moving forward. And this is only a brief list of some of the things that we're doing. In the agricultural area, looking at automation, robotics, how do we decrease the need for labor, increase efficiencies and profitability on the farm? Fiber of the Future is one of my favorite research programs we're looking at now, and that's how do we grow a longer staple cotton to make it more competitive with synthetics so we get the drape and the fill and other opportunities and characteristics that cotton has a lot of great ones, but we don't have all of them. How can we change that in the marketplace starting with genetics? And then hopefully maybe some of you have heard of the Cotton Expert app. I don't know if anyone in the room has. If you were at Bremen, hopefully you would have heard about it. But many of the projects we do jointly with other organizations, and this is one of those. We have developed an app to go on your iPhone or another phone too that you download, and for illiterate cotton farmers, it tells them how to take care of their soil health and what to do. Currently, it's translated in 25 different languages because when the boat and everything rises, it helps everyone in the cotton industry. Looking at those opportunities in the agricultural area and product development, looking at new technologies to make cotton competitive in the marketplace. Does it wick moisture? Does it repel moisture? We know that cotton's really good at absorption. That's not what you always want, especially in activewear and other categories. New end uses such as 3D printing and technology. Right now, we're using linters in that area, but that's a sustainability story for us too. And then digital fabric. We talked about digital twins earlier. During the pandemic, that escalated, and the need for that when we couldn't travel and we couldn't get things out in the industry. How do we ensure people continue to use cotton with those types of advancements? And in sustainability, significant amount of work going on, from LCAs to work in carbon that I'll share with you in a moment, nitrogen use efficiency. And then, of course, in the consumer, understanding demand creation, what they need, recycling programs, and where to go with economic analysis to help them save money and make the most of their wallet during recessionary periods. So when we're looking at this, then how to renew cotton's messaging, I believe it starts with understanding the data, the market research, the trends, where we're going, and that can be somewhat unique to the country you're in. Also, I believe that you look at promoting the benefits of cotton that resonate, the 3 E's, economy, emotion, and also eco-friendly. And then last but not least, and maybe even most importantly, is we in the industry have to provide solutions. When we go to consumers or retailers and brands and we want them to use cotton, are we making it convenient? Are we making it easy? How are we giving programs that will help forward cotton? Because they have a lot to do. They don't always think about the ingredient that they're utilizing. They're selling their product. So now I want to talk to you about the examples that I have. And I'm going to start with an example for fashion. Looking at that, we know when I showed you, why do people buy apparel? One of the primary drivers is because it looks good, they like it, they need comfort. So we partnered with a group called Good American. This is a women's wear retailer. It was an e-commerce experience. And we worked with them for about an 8-week period, and we curated cotton collections on their websites. And we were really excited about this. It was a range of products, started at $14, went all the way up to about $200, 12 product categories. That's about 7,000 different styles that you could purchase. But the other part of this was the diversity that they offered. Diversity in product, diversity in the influencers they worked with, and diversity in sizing. So you didn't have a narrow size, you had a very wide sizing opportunity to talk about, and they actually were the retailer that invented size 15 for women. And some of you may have heard of a little family called the Kardashians. They have investment in this company, which happened to come about later. I didn't know that when we first started working with them. But when you work with companies like this, you look for opportunities and you work with them to talk about messaging. In this case, we were talking about natural, breathable. You'll see that on all product categories, the seal was readily available because it's an identifier of quality. That's consumers. That's not what we promote at Cotton Incorporated, but that's what they tell us, but also the content. And in this, they start to curate collections and to help talk to consumers in the voice of this retailer or brand. So take a look. So that makes us very contemporary, very relevant today in the consumer's mindset. And hopefully you heard the influencer speak, and she spoke about you care about what you put in your body. What about what you put on your body? A nod to natural and what that means in the marketplace, and borrowing from the food industry. And speaking of that, I mentioned earlier that all parts of the cotton plant are utilized. The cotton seed is used for cattle feed, beef and dairy, also aquaculture, but the seed is then pressed into oil. At Cotton Incorporated, we're in the process of doing research in this area to see what the health benefits are of cottonseed oil compared to other oils. And I can tell you early indicators are it's very positive, but we want to be able to replicate more studies before we go out with those types of claims. However, in the interim, we have decided to latch onto a trend that many have around the world, and that is cooking. Looking at the Food Network, looking at shows, and what we could do with that. So we partnered with chefs with cottonseed oil to talk about why they use that and what the benefits are. And the video I'm going to show you now is one. He's out of Portland, Oregon. His name is Carlos LaMagna, and he was rated or selected by Food and Wine as one of the top chefs of 2021. So listen to his story about cottonseed oil.
So the next dish we call kiloin in the Philippines. We have a beautiful strip steak that we actually sous vide, and then we baste it with a bit of cottonseed oil, season it with salt and pepper, and we throw it on the grill to get a nice Maillard reaction to get that beautiful roasted meat flavor. So we made a beautiful annatto oil with cottonseed oil, infusing it with annatto seeds, which adds a beautiful nutty flavor, garlic and bay leaf to really round out the dressing. Because of the high smoking point as well as neutrality, this is kind of one of the perfect oils to infuse with.
So you heard smoking point, neutrality, benefits of cottonseed oil to send to the marketplace. And I imagine if you weren't hungry, you are now. We have a series of those. That was just part of that video. We have 3 others that are on the website if you're interested to go see those as well. The next program I want to mention to you is one of my favorite at the company. It's called Blue Jeans Go Green, and it started 16 years ago, and we started this really before it was cool to talk about sustainability and recycling in the marketplace. This is where we partner with retailers and brands to have consumers bring in their worn-out denim, jeans primarily, but it could be jackets, other goods, and we would take them, keep them out of landfills, recycle it into insulation, and at the same time, the consumer that brought those in would get a discount on their next cotton item. It's a win-win for everyone in the marketplace. Today, we've had more than 500 retailers and brands work with us. We've been on college campuses in almost every state to talk about the Blue Jeans Go Green program. It also gives us a platform for different types of messaging. You can see here one a comparative about cotton compared to synthetics and the opportunities to reach markets when they're utilizing this. But to tell you more about the process, I of course have another video to show you.
Old denim favorites. When they're too worn to wear, they don't have to go to waste. They can be recycled through the Blue Jeans Go Green program. The denim recycling journey starts with cotton, a natural, sustainable fiber. Once harvested, it's blended, cleaned, and prepared for brands to create new styles. Then comes the fun. Shopping for new jeans and denim apparel, which over time become favorites. Loved for years until they need to move on. That's when the Blue Jeans Go Green program makes a difference. Those bottom-of-the-stack jeans can be mailed to the program or taken to select stores, schools, or events for recycling. Once collected, denim is broken down, zippers and buttons are removed, and it's returned to its natural cotton fiber state. At last, it's upcycled into ultra-touch denim insulation. And each year, a portion is distributed to communities for building efforts across America. So what was once an old favorite can now comfort and protect someone new. A process made possible by the natural, sustainable quality of cotton.
And this is some example of some of the messaging you would see if it was a partner with us. One is Wrangler listed here, another is Wilco, 7 for All Mankind. And going in the marketplace, you'll see the seal. The Instagram post that's moving, that is PacSun. This is a junior type retailer going through, and they're talking about what they can do to recycle their denim. And in the messaging, you'll see that they tell them to check the label, look for 90% or more cotton products. That'll be coming up in just a second. And that also that when they do that, they'll get $10 off their next purchase of a pair of denim jeans or high cotton content. Again, a way to put it in the messaging of who we're working with, and they even tell them to rock the cotton, which works out really well for us in the marketplace. So when we talk about things, we always look for relevancy and why it matters and what will be action-oriented, the solution I talked to you about. But then there are other things that are evolving in the marketplace. Some of us in this room are familiar with carbon. We're familiar that the cotton plant can sequester carbon when it's in the field. But did you know that it can also sequester CO2 in your closet? That is a way that we can start to look and introduce this concept to consumers and talk to them about why it matters and what it means. And not only why it matters, but what they can do about it.
Carbon from the atmosphere, even in your closet? As a plant in the field, cotton captures and holds carbon dioxide, storing it in both the soil and fiber. Cotton also holds CO2 in the fabric form too. On average, one pair of jeans can sequester 2.5 pounds of CO2, the same amount of greenhouse gas emissions as driving 2.8 miles in a gas-powered car. People keep and wear clothing with more cotton content longer and more often, suggesting it is also durable. In fact, the longer you have a pair of jeans, the longer you keep CO2 out of the atmosphere. Keeping CO2 out of the atmosphere, even temporarily, helps reduce climate change. When your denim jeans are worn out, you can recycle them through the Blue Jeans Go Green Denim Recycling Program, giving them new purpose by insulating food, pet beds, or even your home, ensuring the carbon stored stays sequestered and not released into the atmosphere.
So it allows us to start to educate and make awareness higher among consumers in the marketplace. Also, you can see how we've diversified the end uses over the pandemic into pet beds and freshly. You think about the food boxes people were utilizing. Cotton is a wonderful thermal and cold insulator. So they're now using that insulation in their boxes. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I was recently in the UK. We went over there to look at a recycling program we were setting up there jointly with Cotton Council International, and I went into a sorting location, and it just hit me. I've been in the industry a long time and I've seen it, but when I walked in and I saw this stack of white cotton shirts, and then I saw the stack of the next shirts, it occurred to me we're doing so much to make certain we're regenerative, that we're doing the right things on the field for the crop and product development, the use of different technologies, but what are we doing with our fiber afterwards? How are we making it easy for retailers and brands to continue circularity, utilize cotton, and to go through that? And there's a lot of competitive fibers and forces out there today. We have to make it easy. Fortunately, we were already working on that before the pandemic happened. In January of 2020, my staff that had started the Blue Jeans Go Green program 16 years ago had started looking into a program in the UK. We'd gone over there in January to set it up. Pandemic shut us down. We had to leave. We had not met any of the supply chain partners at that time. Over the next 2 years, we took the opportunity to set up an entire supply chain to help retailers and brands in Europe, where many of the regulations are started and other fibers exist, to have a recycling program for cotton.
Jumper seen too many winters? Done with skinny jeans? Fear not. The Cotton Lives On program will take your outlived and overworn cottons and give them a whole new life. After all, cotton is a natural, recyclable fiber that begins in the earth before becoming your favorite socks, band t-shirt, denim, or dinosaur onesie. And when it's ready to be broken down, it can be transformed into something brand spanking new. All this is part of our bold commitment to making the fashion industry more sustainable, slashing down on countless clothes dumped on grisly landfills by turning them into things like roll mats, while helping both people and planet. And through the Cotton Lives On recycling program, we're making it as easy as possible to take part. Whether you're a parent, fashionista, or you've been wearing the same tired old hoodie for the past 10 years. Simply drop your cottons off at one of our participating locations or mail them over. After that, leave it to Cotton. We'll keep the cycle going and make sure your cotton lives on. Sustainable fashion shouldn't make you want to bury your head in the laundry basket. Thanks to Cotton's handy properties, together we can shape a better future.
So we've just launched the first trial of that, looking at introducing it to new retailers and brands, and the opportunity to have this model hopefully go forward like it has in the US and be successful there for cotton. So this is bringing me toward the end of the examples, but when we start to look at fashion and sustainability, the question is, how do we bring those two worlds together? How do we take what consumers really care about, but also leverage the sustainable aspects of cotton? We were just at New York Fashion Week in 2022, and we worked with a brand called Revolve. They had 15 different brands come into an experiential space, and there were different types of mechanisms to go through. We decided that we wanted to showcase cotton clothing. When you walked into this room, on the right-hand side, we would showcase cotton clothing that they could take a QR code and purchase right then and there if they wanted to. And then on 3 other walls, it was an immersive experience with a video playing. And the video that was playing was talking about the benefits of cotton and going into detail about what they could learn and start to bring it to another level with fashion influencers in the marketplace. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity maybe to see the visiting exhibition of Van Gogh. That was one of the things that kind of started us thinking about this. However, it's not quite at that level. We definitely wish it was. But what we want to show you now is to show you this video and to go through and take a listen at the nature that you hear in it, the sun, the rain, and the parts to really get consumers involved. And hopefully there you could see the twist. A lot of the myths about cotton is that it's a water hog, that it uses too much, but it doesn't at all. In fact, we said help save the water, help save aquaculture, save other areas. And we were really pleased with the influencers that came through. It was a private event the first night and then opened up to the public. The shares that we saw on social media and the start to ingrain that into the awareness of these consumers. Also, that program that I talked about for you, we had over 7,800 different styles of products with that brand, Revolve, and the price went from $14 to $1,600. So very high-end men's, women's, and home products in the marketplace. That's where we wanted to be to start to plant this information at New York Fashion Week. So the last area I'll mention to you today, and one of the most important, is the future of cotton, literally, and that's the youth consumers that will be coming up. We started a youth curriculum before the pandemic, of course not knowing that was going to occur. This has information about agricultural practices, looking at microplastics, why you should check the label, and other information, not just Cotton Incorporated, but other information on cotton to help teachers in the classroom. To date, over 685,000 teachers have looked at this material and utilized it. And the great thing about this information is that it's at no cost to teachers to utilize whenever they want to, and it's updated. We're adding a virtual farm to it and a virtual spinning tour as well. And any of the materials I've showed you today, you are welcome to utilize in your markets as well. So as we wrap up, I'd like always to end with the seal of cotton. We've known for more than 20 years that 80% of consumers are aware of the seal of cotton. It serves as an identifier. But we've also found that 82% believe that products that contain the seal of cotton are sustainable. They would like to see more of these in the marketplace, and that it even boosts a brand and what they're saying about the environment, and that they care about the environment. There's a lot of work and effort that's gone behind this, and we're going to continue to strengthen this in the marketplace as we go forward. And next year is our 50th anniversary of the seal marketing to consumers. So because cotton is resilient and it's renewable, it's the preferred fiber. It is the benchmark that all other fibers still compare themselves against, and it's relevant to consumers today. We hope that we've inspired you. You can take some of this information and utilize it in your own markets, and here are our websites and channels, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time. Thank you for your time. I don't know if you have to use the code. You could just shout it out too. I'm happy to answer it if I can. Or they may be hungry, yeah. Are we using cottonseed oil on the food out there? In the future, we can. Yes, sure.
Just about stretch denim. Can that be recycled in the same way as 100% cotton?
Sure. So there is a small component of stretch that can be in there. The preference is not to have a lot of another natural, of a synthetic fiber in there to parse it out. In the UK, the people we're working with there have actually more leeway than our vendors here in the US to do that, which is good news for all of us involved.
You've wowed them, Kim, with that absolute tour de force. Thank you so much for giving us such a fantastic summary of all those initiatives that relate to this fantastic fibre. Thank you very much indeed. May a very small gift to thank you for coming. Yeah, sure. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the keynote presentations for this International Cotton event. Lunch is served outside. For those of you that are involved in the ICA meetings, that will be held downstairs in the St. James boardroom, and I would ask you to move directly there, and we look forward to seeing all of you at 7 p.m. this evening, dressed up in our finest national dress or black tie. Thank you very much indeed.